Good evening. It's evening here in Somerset. I thought I'd do the last section of the Guardian article from the 10th. The subheading is Lucy Letby not on shift. I'll read it out and I'll make some comments. And I've just been on Twitter. It's just all of it's sickening. It sickened me from the beginning. I mean, I don't mean right back years and years ago because I didn't follow it, but I'm talking about from the trial. Once I began, I got it straight away. Actually, that what was going on, I did. Sorry. As a whole, as a sense of a whole, what they were doing, it was a sense of horror, a sense of horror of what they've done, and everything that's unfolded since, and all the information that's come out since, has just increased that horror and given it more detail. But the horror was there from the beginning, and I think that's how it was for many people. For some people, it was a slower turnaround, and it's not a competition. It's nothing to do with that. But personally speaking, it was a sense of horror from the beginning about what they've done when I was following the trial. I wasn't aware of it as a story before that. I wasn't aware of it in the years leading up to it. But it's just been a thing that I've been thinking about every day since the trial, and reading everything I can, listening to everything I can about it, as many people have. And the focus that's on this now, obviously from such a range of people, whether they're experts or lay people, people without any particular professional background or not relevant professional background. It's extraordinary. But it's, I don't know, it's just the feeling I've got now. The more I hear every new thing, well, it's kind of not new, it doesn't feel new. It's just more of the same. More of the same cover-up, more of the same corruption, more of the same exposure of the absolute disgusting state of our institutions that would allow this to happen, that would make sure once they've done it that it would cover it all up. Cover it all up forever. If they could. There was a little bit of a video I saw yesterday, and I think it was one of the gentlemen from the group of people that were blamed falsely, the Birmingham Six. Sorry. Birmingham Six. And he was saying it wasn't the system that got them out. It was public pressure. It was public pressure, public awareness. And he was given an interview, and he was saying to whoever was interviewing him, it was that, he said, once the British people, that's how he described it. So once the British people became aware that this was wrong, they got angry, they got annoyed, they got involved. They started talking about it, started shouting about it, started writing about it. And he said that was the thing that built this momentum, where that system had to look into it again, because the appeal court there, they turned them down twice, I think. Excuse me. And they had a system. They had a system in which you've got Lord Denning, one of the most celebrated judges of the era, telling somebody in the back of a taxi that, oh yeah, they're probably innocent, but it's best they stay in prison, otherwise the public will lose their faith in the police and the judiciary. Psychopath. An evil merchant of untruth, of lies. Demonic, almost. They call Satan the father of lies. That's what they call him. And that's somebody who was happy to trade in lies. Lord Denning, no less. Lord Denning. And are these other judges are they in the same mould as him? I think so. In all likelihood. I'm not saying every judge. But certainly those ones in the Court of Appeal, and certainly Goss. Anyway, I've gone off track already. I'm a bit hyped up today. I'm sickened by this. I'm enraged by it. I like all the people talking about it. It's like we want to do something. We want to, people have said it as kind of perhaps hyperbole, but they mean it. They want to go up there and break her out. Break her out, take her back home, and say, fuck you to this evil system that's put her in there. Are we meant to be respectful of it? Are we meant to respect these arseholes that have done that, can do it, would want to seal it forever, would want to cover it up forever? Are we meant to respect that? I don't think so. I'll focus, get back onto this. A particular case that is generating questions about the safety of Lucy Letby's conviction is that of baby C. Indeed it is. Born prematurely on the 10th of June 2015, weighing 800 grams. The child died 4 years later. Lucy Letby was convicted of murder on the charge based significantly on the evidence of the prosecution's lead expert witness, Dr. Dewey Evans. He alleged that she injected air into the baby's stomach via a nasogastric tube, NGT for short, which is connected through the nose to enable feeding. That method of harming babies was also alleged by the prosecution and found by the jury to be the cause of collapse for two other babies I and P. The charge regarding baby C relied on a joint expert's report signed by Evans in August 2022, 2 months before the trial. It stated that the evidence for air having been injected into the stomach could be seen on an X-ray of the child taken on the 12th of June 2015. Crucial date. The paediatric pathologist instructed by the prosecution, another weirdo in my humble opinion, Dr. Andreas Manorides, another gun for hire, another corrupt individual, told the court that all the prosecution's experts had come to the same finding based on that X-ray on the 12th. However, during the trial, it emerged that Lucy Letby had not worked on that day when that X-ray was taken, nor on the 2 previous days after baby C's birth, had never met the baby prior to that X-ray, and not on the day of the X-ray either. Evans gave evidence in the trial when it had already been established by earlier witnesses that Lucy Letby had not worked with baby C before the X-ray was taken, and not on the day of the X-ray, crucially. In the witness box, he departed from his written report and proposed 2 new possible causes of the child's collapse. He said a large volume of air caused the diaphragm to splint on the 13th of June when Lucy Letby was on duty, so he can make it up on the hoof, can't he? In the witness box, after being paid hundreds of thousands of pounds over 6 years, best part of 6 years before that trial. Can make it up on the hoof, can change horses in midstream, he can. So he can. Can this genius Evans. Right? It's what you said, that the large volume of air caused the diaphragm to splint when Lucy Letby was on duty. And that air may have been injected into the bloodstream rather than through the NSG, nasogastric tube. Challenged by Lucy Letby's barrister at the trial, Benjamin Myers KC, who is Benjamin Myers KC, Evans acknowledged that he had never mentioned either of those potential causes of death throughout, well, they say 5 years. 5 years of working on the case. 5 years. And in 9 written reports. Sorry, Evans said, in quotes, explaining his change of evidence. This baby was put in harm's way. See how generalised it becomes then. Oh, you found me out. Oh, it's put in harm's way. What an arsehole. We're meant to have any... No, we're not meant... We can't. We don't have any This person's there are no insults worse enough for him. He's going to hell. If there is a hell, he's going to it. Evans. He's not the only one. Johnson maintained in his closing speech, that's the prosecutor, that Lucy Letby killed baby C using air down the feeding tube. So he stuck to it, even though he's changed his mind. Even though the expert changed his mind. Johnson, did you think nobody would notice? Did he think nobody would notice? So Johnson maintains that the cause of death was air down the feeding tube as the method, but saying that she did so on the 13th of June and that the prosecution based the allegation on evidence. So I've got to read that again. Does that make sense? Johnson maintained in his closing speech that Lucy Letby killed baby C using air down the feeding tube as her method of murder, yeah. Saying that she did so on the 13th. But the proof of it is from the 12th, when she'd never met baby C. Saying she did so on the 13th, and that the prosecution based the allegation on Evans's evidence, which was based on and Manarides and all the other people agreeing, based on the X-ray from the 12th. The Court of Appeal judgment highlighted Evans having changed his evidence on the witness stand. Quote, if he did step over the line, what does that even mean? Not only in legal terms, but in logical terms, in medical terms. What does step over the line mean? What does that even mean? Do you see how they replicate the same vagary, the same utter vagueness as Evans did above when he said she's put in harm's way? That's his get out. That's his get out of jail card. She's put in harm's way, the baby. The baby's put in harm's way. The Court of Appeal's get out of card is he stepped over the line. What is the line? What is the line? What, changing the method of murder when you're so that you can have any method of murder, so that the jury can choose the method of murder, or doesn't need to know any method of murder? Just that Lucy Letby's on duty. That's enough. That's enough. Bloody insane. No, evil. Deliberate lying, deliberate falsehoods, deliberate fraud from all these institutions and these individuals. If he did overstep the line, the Court of Appeal said, in relation to one baby, yeah, if they know, as we know, if one of these cases fall, they all fall. If one air embolism case, so-called, falls, they all fall. We know that. If one nasogastric tube charge falls, they all fall, and they know that. So they're saying, it's just one case. So that stunningly wicked. If he did overstep the line in relation to one baby C, in which he gave the opinion on the cause of the baby's collapse for the first time in his evidence to the jury, they're saying, Court of Appeal now, that did not invalidate his evidence generally. You don't think that when he's caught out, he just changes it midstream? You don't think that invalidates him? There's 1,000 other ways to invalidate him that we've been going over, and other people have been going over for 13, 14 months now. And just before, in case I forget, which I mustn't forget, Dr. Michael McConville's podcasts, The Other Side of Lucy Letby. He's just on his 31st podcast on it. I'm up to number 10. I'm way behind. But it takes me a lot of time to get the information into my head. It's dense and very, very detailed in terms of the medical evidence. Please listen to this podcast. I'll put a link below. The Other Side of Lucy Letby. 31 episodes now. It's such a building strength of the medical argument against the absolute bullshit that Evans and the other so-called experts adduced and asserted at the trial in 2023. Please listen to this. I'm going to get through all of them. I'm on number 10. I've got another 21 to go. And there may be more at the end of that anyway. But they're brilliant. He's a brilliant man, and he's obviously a person great conscience and of great intelligence and incisiveness. The way he describes it, it's just, and he's somebody that's had 40 years experience of medicine. And he knows about babies, he knows about neonates, and he's looked at all these other research papers in every element of this. Something that the other experts at that trial didn't do. Something that Evans didn't do. Something that the police didn't do. Something that the CPS didn't do. Michael McConville's doing it. Dr. Michael McConville's doing it. They should have him on the team with Mark McDonald. That's what I believe. And also, I'm forgetting people's names now. And also Richard Gill. And also Law Health Tech. Yes, also Dr. Scott McLachlan of Law Health Tech, and other people as well, and Peter Elston as well. You know, these people, they're just amazing, and the wonderful work also done by Sarita Adams. They're very early on as well. There's a kind of a dream team of people, but I know there's other people that have come in the interim as well that are supporting Mark McDonald's application to the CCRC. Anyway, I mustn't get off track. It's not off track, it's all very relevant, it's highly relevant, but I'm talking about doing this video about this article. But please listen to Dr. It's all the doctors, I'm mixing up Dr. McConville's The Other Side of Lucy Letby, and please look at, if you haven't, Dr. Scott McLachlan's probably about 23, 24, maybe, no, actually about 26 articles on his Substack, and it's Substack, that's the platform, at Law Health Tech on Substack, yeah? Here we are. Sorry, Evans said. This baby was put in harm's way. I've done that bit. Oh, the Court of Appeal, that's where I was, wasn't I? If he did step over the line in relation to one baby, yeah. It doesn't invalidate his evidence generally. Oh, it does. And about 1,000 other things does as well. And we're going to find that out, Court of Appeal. We're going to find that out in the same way that we found it out for Sally Clark, in the same way we found it out for the Birmingham 6, Guildford 4, and Angela Canning's. You could go on and on and on. Andrew Malkinson, who turns down appeals. They turned down the appeal of all these people. Found it out in the end they were wrong, weren't they? The 3 judges, nevertheless, denied Lucy Letby's leave to appeal. What mean, sick, drudges, drone-like, NPC twats they are. Dr. Mike Hall, I'll get back on track here. Dr. Mike Hall, a retired consultant neonatologist and visiting professor in neonatal medicine, advised Lucy Letby's legal defence team, but was not called to give evidence at the trial. Big question, why not? Why not? Why would you have him there and not call him? Why? He said, quote, this is Dr. Hall now, I feel a particular sense of injustice about baby C because all 4 main prosecution witnesses who gave evidence about the child, either directly or indirectly, led the jury to believe that part of the cause of the demise was evidence from an X-ray taken on the 12th of June 2015. Lucy Letby, had never been involved with that baby prior to that X-ray, or indeed, for clarity, on the day of the X-ray either. That's the crucial thing to say. In response to questions from The Guardian, Evans, who's been flapping his gums, much to the chagrin of Cheshire Police, who don't want him to say another word, Evans said he had now completed a new report for the police on baby C's medical condition based on this. This is going to blow your mind. Many people listening to this probably read the Guardian article anyway. This blew my mind. On, quote, corrected medical notes. Now, what questions spring to mind when you hear that? Corrected medical notes. And we're talking about medical notes from 2015 here. So, who's corrected them? Who has corrected them? And what is the nature of the corrections? He's had these access, he's had a more recent access to corrected notes from 9 years ago. Who's corrected them? Who's corrected these notes? Why have they corrected them? And on what basis have they corrected them? And what have they corrected? Please, it's a farce. It's a dark, twisted farce. He explained, this is Evans, he changed his opinion at the trial after hearing staff give their evidence. Oh, right, so it's just right. He rocks up at the trial. He's been doing reports, getting hundreds of thousands of pounds for it, mind you, over years, 5 years, between 5 and 6 years. And then other staff start to give evidence, and he goes, oh, hold on a minute, no. I've got to change my reports now. I thought he was sure about everything. So based on the testimony of other people, all his theories go out the window, or can do at the drop of a hat, i.e. when he's caught out, i.e. when he's banged to rights caught out. And he's caught out, listen to Dr. Michael McConville, he's caught out on every case, and other people are looking into it as well. But please listen to that podcast, The Other Side of Lucy Letby. He's caught out. And he hears these other people giving evidence, and he says, well, I'll do a 180 then. We've got to make it fit somehow. And I'll just say something vague like, oh, the baby was put in harm's way. Yeah, the baby was put in harm's way. The harm's way was the mum, sadly and unfortunately and tragically, going to the Countess of Chester Hospital. That's the harm's way. That's the harm. So Evans, anyway, so he's done it on these corrected medical notes. Bizarre. Weird. You know it's falling apart. You can hear it, can't you? Can't you hear the wall falling down that they constructed? What I said in the video yesterday. It's not as opposed to what that statistician from Warwick said. Hutton? Is it Hutton? It's not a bunch of crockery, broken crockery. It's a wall, and the wall is falling down around their ears. Around their rears and around their ears. He explained he changed his opinion after hearing staff give their evidence. Sorry, I keep sneezing. I'm not very well. Not very well. I'm fucking furious, as many people are. I can hear it. I've not met any of the people talking about this face to face, but I can feel their hearts and how enraged they are and how disgusted they are and how much they're crying out for justice in this matter. For Lucy Letby, her family, her friends, and also for the parents as well, obviously. So what's he saying? Oh, it gets worse and worse and worse. Evans, Jesus wept. He explained he changed his opinion after hearing the staff give their evidence. Evans said Lucy Letby murdered baby C during the night shift of the 13th of June. Before did it on the 12th because of the x-ray. You can just shift the day now. You can shift the mode of murder. You can shift the time, the day of murder. What other individual trial for an attempted murder or a murder would allow for that? What jury would convict a person of an individual murder where the expert witness is saying, well, I don't know what day it happened. I don't know when it happened. I don't know how it happened. But I'll change my mind with the horses in midstream in the witness box because of what somebody else said, even though I made all these reports. I got loads of money for it en route for 5 years. It took me 5 years to work it out. But I'll change it in the middle of the court case, in the middle of my evidence. What individual case? It wouldn't fly, would it? It would never get a guilty verdict. It's because they swamped the jury with all these charges. The cynicism of the Cheshire Police. What a ghastly organisation that is. And the CPS swamped the jury to make them think, well, this person wouldn't be here if there wasn't anything in it. And then you'd had the media monstering her for God knows how long. They'd found her guilty before they even heard a bloody word of evidence. So Evans says Lucy Letby murdered baby C during her night shift on the 13th. You can just move it at will. But listen to this. He declined to say whether he maintained this was by injecting air down the nasogastric tube. He declined to say. Well, he wouldn't say. He don't even want to say now. He doesn't even want to say what the method is now. We're meant to believe this person, that his finding of all the methods in each individual case is reliable and should mean that it happened in reality. And now he's pulling back from even saying what it is. This month, it goes on to say, the Telegraph reported that Evans had said he now believed the cause of death was air injected intravenously, not down the NGT. So he just changes it because obviously he can't rely on the X-ray from the 12th. So he's got to change the mode of murder, isn't he? That's the level of caprice that we're dealing with here, that the jury had to deal with. We're meant to think this is viable as a prosecution case, as an expert witness. We're meant to think this is viable. I've got to get through this. I'm going to fucking have. I've got to get through this. It's sickening. This is Evans now. This is Evans, I think. This next paragraph. Last week, I carried out a detailed review from the corrected case notes. I already showed my shock and awe at who's corrected them, why did they correct them, what did they correct. Only received by me in June 22. Oh God, do you only get them then, did you? 5 years later, you only got them then, they were corrected. Who corrected them? Why did you get them? No, because they're trying to get you out of a hole. So you have to make up something new, don't you? Because you know that people have found out that Lucy Letby wasn't there when the X-ray was taken. So you've got to change the story. This is what happens when you're dealing with pathological liars. They've got to keep changing the story. It's not simple for them because they've got to keep remembering what they fucked up with again and again and again in the past. They've got to come up with something that's believable now. But it gets harder and harder and harder as you go along. So where was I? Oh, it's just this Evans. It's just this Evans bollocks. Oh, look, so last week I carried out a detailed review, he says, Evans, from the corrected case notes only received by me in June 2022. I've now worked out what led to infant C's death in more detail. Not in more detail, Dewey Evans. Not in more detail. You've just changed the story completely. Not in more detail. You flipped the script and changed the story because you've been found out. You bastard. You scumbag. And have completed my report. Oh, he's another report. For more money, presumably. For more money. Sue this bastard into the Stone Age. Sue him into utter penury. When the time comes. Evans told The Guardian, right, he's completed his report, right? Asked for his current opinion on the baby's cause of death, he replied, this will blow your absolute gourd. This will flip your gourd. He replied. So The Guardian's asking him for his current opinion on the baby's cause of death. Evans says, I think that in my evidence, I said that it was the result of air into the bloodstream, and in brackets, but I have not seen the transcript. He needs to see the transcript to know what he said. He doesn't know what happened. He needs to see the transcript to confirm what his theory is, because he doesn't know it without the transcript. And you can see how the liar is exposed here. What did I say? What lie did I make up here? Now, what thing did I make up here? I've got to see the document where I said what I said before. I can't tell you now. That's why he says, I think that in my evidence I did that. He needs to see the transcript. For the love of God, for the love of all that's holy. So if the transcript says something else, well then that's the thing he thinks. He doesn't know what he thinks now. He just thinks, I've got to think, what did I say then? For fuck's sake. Asked to clarify further, Evans said Cheshire Police had now told him to not discuss baby C in the press, like I did in that sort of spoof video of Officer Hughes, Detective Hughes, the gormless twat. They don't want him talking. They don't want this. He's a liability. Evans is a liability for them. If only he would shut up, they're thinking. They're having meetings at that in Cheshire Police. If only Evans would shut the fuck up. We'll get away with this. We'll get away with stitching her up. If only he would shut the fuck up. He's gonna bring the whole house of cards down. That's what Cheshire Police are thinking in their meetings. That's what they're thinking. That's what they're saying to each other. Somebody shut that bastard up in Carmarthen. Tell him, make him shut up. Do it somehow. Okay. The allegation that Lucy Letby murdered babies by injecting air down their nasogastric tubes has, as The Guardian reported in July, been one of the lightning rods, good term, lightning rods for the criticism from medical experts, who described the theory as nonsensical or, quote, rubbish, quote, ridiculous, quote, implausible and fantastical. And that's what this man is, but much, much worse. Mark MacDonald said, Dr. Dewey Evans, this is a quote from Mark MacDonald, appears to be shifting his opinion regarding one of the most fundamental aspects of the case, the medical evidence. I don't want to be picky, but it's more than appearing to shift the opinion, isn't it? It's more than appearing it. I mean, maybe he's using, it's kind of, what's the word? He's using a kind of rhetorical tone or, a rhetorical tone or register. A rhetorical register. That's what barristers do. He's appearing to do that. No, it's obviously that it's bloody obvious he's doing it. I have now spoken, says Mark MacDonald, and have reports from some of the most senior neonatologists in the country. Just to ad infinitum reminder that Evans was not, never will be a neonatologist. And Mark MacDonald goes on to say, none of them has yet agreed with Dr. Evans. And Dr. Michael McConville agrees with nothing Evans says. Nothing at all. Evans has consistently maintained that his evidence is correct, was correct, even though he's changing it on the hoof. The arrogance. This is somebody with and I'm glad and gratified. I'm glad and gratified to see that people are now using what some people may have thought was intemperate language that I was using before, calling this person Evans a sociopath, i.e. he's got some kind of personality disorder. And I'm glad to see that some people are getting on, clicking with that and realising that that is the case. Because it fucking, well, obviously is the case that this person is personality disordered. Look at some of Evans's responses in the part 6 of the Private Eye Lucy Letby series of articles that's recently come out. I read it the other day. about him winning every case. Evans crowing and boasting about winning every case he's ever been involved in, except one, and it still rankles him that he lost one. You're dealing with a nutter here. You're dealing with somebody with a personality disorder. And of course, the narcissist is always right. The narcissist is always right. Evans has consistently maintained that his evidence is correct. Well, yeah, of course he would. He would, wouldn't he? The Guardian contacted the lawyer representing Baby C's mother at the Thirlwall inquiry. She replied that they did not wish to comment. I suspect, and with all the understanding for the hell that they've been through, those parents, that both the sum of the parents and their legal representatives are realising that it's not about a serial killer that's been invented by a bunch of bullying, sick consultants and consolidated by this monster Evans and the CPS and the thick as shit police and the completely corrupt criminal justice system, that they know it's the hospital after all. It's the hospital after all, and I believe that they're beginning to get that understanding. It must be terrible for them to be on this roller coaster of emotion and feelings about that. A CPS spokesperson pointed to the fact that Lucy Letby had been convicted in 2 separate trials and said, in May, this is a quote from the CPS, the Court of Appeal dismissed Lucy Letby's leave to appeal on all grounds, rejecting her argument that expert prosecution evidence was flawed. That's the kind of message you get when you speak to a computer, isn't it? That's got very, very limited ability to answer you. It's not a human being. That's not a human being's response. That's just saying our system decided this, and that's what it decided. Therefore, it will be this way in perpetuity. That's not a human being you spoke. Whoever the spokesperson is, it's someone that's covering everything up and giving a computer-like response. Oh, well, that's what the Court of Appeal decided. So don't ask us any questions. Don't ask us any questions because the Court of Appeal. And don't you respect the Court of Appeal? What's wrong with you, man? What's wrong with you? Are you some kind of revolutionary? Are you some kind of... Don't you respect your elders and your betters? Don't you respect the social order? Don't you respect the establishment of the Court of Appeal? They said it was all right. So it's all right then, isn't it? No. Last paragraph. A spokesperson for Cheshire Constabulary said, this is the usual way of ending this off, these articles. I know. I don't blame them for putting it in the article, but it just shows the intransigence, the word that was used on Twitter, somebody's tweet, the intransigence of these institutions and organisations to adapt their approach based on reality, based on evidence, based on truth, because they want the old story. They don't want that harmed. They don't want that undermined, the story of the serial killer. And so the Thirlwall inquiry is an inquiry into a fiction, and thereby it's a fictional inquiry. What else can it be? But nonetheless, that being said, it is revealing a lot of useful information for people. It's beyond belief now. It's beyond belief. It's knowledge now. We know Lucy Letby's innocent. We know it. It's not about reasonable doubt. It's not about people sitting on the fence still and saying, I'm not saying she's innocent. Fuck that noise. I'm not listening to any of that shit anymore. I've got no time for it. No time for people saying, oh, I'm not saying she's innocent, but there might be reasonable doubt. Bollocks to that weak, lily-livered shit. They're never, as I said I don't know if it was in this video or another one, there never was any reasonable suspicion, let alone reasonable doubt that she did it. There was never any reasonable suspicion to investigate her. Moreover, there was no reasonable suspicion to investigate these as crimes. It's back to the statistics argument. You only start talking about statistics in the context of something like this when you're looking for somebody to blame and to cover up the failures of the hospital. And I always come back to Alison Timmis's email because she nailed it. Will Thirlwall Inquiry call Alison Timmis? We'll see. Will they ask her about her email? What will she say if they do? Will they call her at all? Alison Timmis, consultant paediatrician, who said, this is unsafe, this unit. Children are going to die. Staff are going to have breakdowns. No one's listening to us. This unit is in chaos. And she said that in early December 2015 in an email to Tony Chambers, the chief executive. I'll finish this off. A spokesperson for Cheshire Constabulary. Oh, the Constabulary. Yeah, fuck that night. In light of the ongoing investigations. What investigations? You planks. And current active legal proceedings, we will not be commenting any further on this case. Yeah, you daren't. You daren't, you cowards. You daren't, Cheshire Police, you utter cowards. I'm not talking about every officer. I'm talking about the people involved in this horrific injustice. I'm not talking about every officer for Cheshire Police. Of course I'm not. But the culture decides that these sorts of things can happen. The enormity of such things can happen. The horror of such things can come to be in the world. So they're saying not to comment any further. A spokesman for the Countess of Chester Hospital NHS Foundation Trust, same standard reply as I'm getting for all my FOIs. I've got about 5 or 6 outstanding. Interesting, they're not coming back to me about the doors, the other doors, which I want to know. I want to know about the other doors that lead off that neonatal unit at that time. So the Countess of Chester Hospital NHS Foundation Trust also said they could not comment in light of these investigations. Standard reply. Shut everything down. Last line. As the Thirlwall Inquiry continues to hear evidence, and some character assassination, throw that into the mix as well, because you know things are falling apart. So block the nurses that want to speak for Lucy Letby, and get people in there like the old mentor, the bullying mentor that wants to have a go at her. Do that, won't you, Thirlwall Inquiry? Actively, proactively. Block the nurse that wants to say something positive about Lucy and that she doesn't believe she harmed any babies. Block her from coming to your inquiry. But bring the people, welcome the people, bring them in who want to throw little darts, further bullying, throw little darts at Lucy Letby and her character, retrospectively, seen through the lens of a completely fabricated story about a made-up serial killer that doesn't exist, that's nothing to do with Lucy Letby, nothing to do with that young woman, nothing to do with that excellent, dedicated, empathetic nurse, daughter, friend, caring person. Nothing to do with that, but they'll get them in to try to harm her further. It's deliberate. It's not a mistake. Is it a mistake? Can it be a mistake that they block the nurses that want to... they sent out the questionnaires to this nurse. And they said, well, no, I could see that the consultants were ganging up on her. I thought she was an excellent nurse. There's nothing wrong with her practice. I don't believe she harmed any babies. Is it a mistake they block that person and bring in the mentor that says these lies about her? Because there's something, it's projection. It's projection 101, that's what it is. As the Thirlwall inquiry continues to hear evidence, the questions about the safety of Lucy Letby's convictions are mounting. Indeed they are. Well done indeed to David Conn, Conn, and Felicity Lawrence. Well done indeed. And well done to Sarah Napton, what she's doing, and Anouk Curry as well, over on the Telegraph. And I'll put the links below to this article. I finished it now. It's agonising because you know what they've done is monstrous. And it's not sifting through fine detail to tip the balance, to go, oh my God. It's not, I'll tell you what it's not. It's not sifting through. I'm just going to have a drink. I'm back in the room. What it is not is sifting through fine detail and looking for tiny bits of beyond reasonable doubt, that there is reasonable doubt. It's not that. What it is that there's never been any evidence. Zero. Nothing. From day one to this. No evidence. And that such a monstrous thing can happen to an innocent person with no evidence other than malice and a sociopath called Dewey Evans. The bullying malice of those group of narcissistic, twisted, childish, spoilt bastard doctors ganging up on someone to take the heat off them because they knew they were failing as a service, and they didn't have the guts to go to management and say, we can't do this because you're obviously not providing a service that will allow us to do this. And individually as well, the fact that they weren't doing sufficient numbers of consultant ward rounds twice a week. Should have been twice a day. Do they feel any guilt about that? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So what happens when someone could be blamed for medical failings, for medical negligence, for corporate negligence, for an oversight negligence that has caused the death of these babies, many of them? Some of them may have sadly died anyway. But the fact that they were at the Countess of Chester Hospital, clearly a significant number of them, had they been at a level 3 unit, would not have died. And who's responsible for that? The trust as a whole and that group of consultants, very, very specifically. And you can see thereby the motivation to find someone to push off the responsibility onto. Can you not? And they found that person. And they did it to the most conscientious, hard-working, empathetic nurse they could find. That's who they did it to. This will be changed. And we're moving towards that, day on day, bit by bit. As those other cases, in the past, and sometimes it destroys the person who's been falsely accused, like Sally Clark. They effectively murdered her. They murdered her with their fake evidence. I hope and I believe and I hope that Lucy Letby's family and Lucy Letby herself and her friends that stuck by her and stick by her, and colleagues that stuck by her and stick by her, are aware that there's a exponentially growing number of people that know she's innocent. Not have this kind of quibbling, fence-sitting state of mind of, oh, I'm not saying she's innocent, but did she get a fair trial? I'm not saying she's innocent, but maybe there's a tiny bit of reasonable doubt. Bollocks to all that shit. Let's grasp the nettle. Let's be courageous in what we can see is in front of us. plain as a pikestaff. What does it say in Shakespeare, Twelfth Night? I can't remember. There's a brilliant line in it. Daylight and champagne discovers no more. Daylight and champagne discovers no more. I think it was a bit of a play on the words of champagne, but I think it's champagne meaning open country. Daylight and open country. In other words, we can see far. We can see far and we can see clear. We're not sitting there going mealy-mouthed and going, I'm not saying she's innocent. No, fuck that. Fuck that. And that's going back to that interview, which I must look up again, by that gentleman. And I don't know, I'm not sure. Sorry, I beg your pardon. I beg the gentleman's pardon. I can't remember his name, but it was a short interview with one of the Birmingham 6 people who were falsely accused. And he was saying it was the outrage. It was the outrage and the growing, like a storm building, of the outrage of the people of Great Britain that got their verdicts overturned, that got their miscarriage of justice put right, and got those convictions overturned, I should say. Thank you for listening, and I make no apology for being passionate about this. I make no apology, as I know people who are passionate about this, and they're growing. There are thousands of them there outside now in the world, and on social media, and we make no apology for it, and we're not mild-mannered about it. Why should we be? Because this is a horrific miscarriage of justice. But I'll leave it there because I'm going to become boring in a minute if I wasn't boring before. But so I'll leave it there. Okay. Thank you very much. God bless you. And please watch Dr. Michael McConville, a brilliant man, a beautiful human being. Please listen to his podcast. And I'll put the link below. Cheerio for now. Bye-bye.